When it comes to retirement, do you want to have the same old plan everyone else has? Of course not. You're unique and have your own goals and dreams. Don't be treated like a number. This is your retirement. So it's time to think differently, and you're in luck because you found the Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez, founder and managing member of ILG Financial. At ILG Financial, you won't find generic run-of-the-mill plans containing the same old cookie-cutter solutions. Dave and the ILG Financial team focus on building one retirement plan at a time using their Think Differently philosophy. And that means your own comprehensive plan with customized solutions built to achieve just one goal, yours. So put on your Think Differently hat and get ready to take back control of your retirement today and for all the tomorrows to come. ILG Financial's Retire Your Way podcast was created just for you, and it's starting right now.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez of ILG Financial. My name's Jeff Shade, and I'm here to ask the questions to help you get the answers that you need to make some intelligent decisions about your retirement and your financial plan. How you doing, Dave?
I am doing great. It is sure good to be back with you. I always enjoy our shows together.
Likewise, Dave, it's always a pleasure to be with you. I like talking to you because you're so sincere. I mean, you really do care about your clients there at ILG Financial. And as I said, we're here to give you the information that you need and answer those questions that you may have so that you can make the best decisions that you can about your retirement and your financial planning. And if there's a question that we have not answered for you, or you have questions about anything that we've talked about on our show, you can always email Dave here on the website, ilgfinancial.com. Dave, this is our inaugural podcast, and what I like about podcasts is the fact that our listeners can bookmark this, like us, and then we come every week with some new information. Well, Dave, being this is our first podcast, I wanted to find out a little bit about ILG Financial, but first, let's talk about you. How did you get into financial planning? What's your story?
Sure, it sure is an interesting one, and that's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? Because we've talked about it. But, and I told my kids this about if they are worried that they get out of college, and you may have kids like this, the listeners as well, and they're all stressed that they don't know what they want to do or if their major was the right choice. And, one of the things I told them was it's probably not the right choice. And the reason is you're going to probably change careers several times in your life. We don't know what's happening. I mean, goodness gracious, I would say 90% of the computer jobs today didn't exist 10 years ago. So who knows what we're going to be doing in the future? I've told my kids, I go, why don't you go talk to anybody who's over 50 and ask them how they got into the job, and almost every one of them is going to start the discussion the same way, Jeff. And it's going to be, well, it's actually an interesting story. Yeah. And they'll talk about how they started in one thing and it led to something else and they met to someone. Well, you know what? That's my story too. I got out of college. I was a double major in computer science and math, and my kids call that a math geek, but I don't like that term. I prefer an analytical thinker, but I guess it's who you ask. But what that means for any of the folks listening that, know folks like me, an analytical thinker processes everything through that filter, the math and the analytical systematic way to process information. Engineers, accountants, math folks, computer scientists, we're all process the information, and most folks listening know someone like that. Well, I got out of school. I didn't do any computer work, and the reason is when I did the interviews, it just scared the heck out of me to sit alone in a basement debunking code. And, looking back 40 years later, I see why is that, I'm built to interact with people and I love it. It is a passion of mine. So I got into the insurance industry and built a company over 18 years in property and casualty insurance. Actually did very well and actually retired in 2003, sold the firm, and we had about 22 employees when we finally sold in 4 locations, and just great success story. And we were so blessed. And, I was about 43, I think, at the time, and I told Cheryl, I don't think we have to work anymore. If we just budget our money right, we didn't live frivolously. And so I just started managing my own money. I loved real estate. I was doing real estate, and my kids were growing up. Now they were, 12, 13, and 14, and all was good. And then '08 hit, and boy, isn't that a story that most people tell. And I thought I'd done everything right. I wasn't in this industry, but I'd listened to all the experts, and I had diversified. I had some in stocks, some in bonds, several different mutual funds. I had real estate to diversify. And of course, in '08, all of those things dropped. And in the blink of an eye, like most everyone else, we lost about a third of our net worth. And that was terrifying. When you've got 3 kids 14 and under, you don't have a job at that point, and the money you thought was going to be there all of a sudden has just vanished. So, I decided this isn't right. And what I told Cheryl is, being a math geek, is I was like, this just doesn't make sense. Putting some in stocks and some in bonds and crossing your fingers and hoping it all works out, because frankly, that's what my broker told me. They said, listen, no one saw this coming, which I've since learned was not accurate. And if it's any consolation, I was told, everybody lost money. Well, I don't know about you, but that was no consolation to me. But it started me on this quest as a math guy is there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I started reading everything I could get my hands on and comparing it to what we had done and what we were going to do and where we were. And I realized there is a better way to do it, and other people knew about it. And so I literally got into the business for our family to learn how to do this. And 11 plus years later, we have built this firm. I think we're close to 30 million in assets under management alone. When you consider all the assets we've managed, I think we're well over 70 million. They put it in the book that came out about us, and it's just been an exciting story. I love what I do. I love helping people to try to help them avoid, what they may have gone through in the past and what we went through, and it's turned out to be a blessing.
That's quite a story, Dave, and an interesting one, too. The takeaway that I get from this is because you did have that financial setback in 2008, that you can really relate to people and understand their fears and concerns about that happening to them and design plans that will help them prevent events like that from having such a major effect and maybe being more of just a minor annoyance rather than a life-changing event. You're listening to our inaugural podcast with Dave Lopez of ILG Financial. And if you'd like to know more about Dave and the firm, once again, you can go to the website. It is ilgfinancial.com. We're going to take a quick break, Dave, about a minute or so. And when we come back, I want to hear a little bit more about ILG Financial and the philosophy that you use to help people get to and through retirement. And we'll hear all about it after this.
You're one step closer to learning what a customized retirement strategy can do for you. Stay tuned for more of ILG Financial's Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez.
When it comes to something really important, like your retirement planning, have you ever felt like people are talking at you instead of to you? Things are different at ILG Financial. We understand that there's a person, a story, and a lifetime of hard work that built that nest egg, and we never forget how much is riding on it. At ILG Financial, we think differently about your retirement because it's supposed to be all about you, not just your portfolio. That's why we work with you to integrate your lifestyle goals into our comprehensive retirement planning process, because we believe it's possible to have financial security and still pursue the things that make you happy. We'll show you how your lifestyle goals can help shape your income and investment plan as part of our retirement planning process. If you're ready for a different approach to retirement planning, call us today for a complimentary consultation at 540-720-5656. That's 540-720-5656. Or go online to ilgfinancial.com. Investment advisory services offered through Alpha Star Capital Management, LLC, registered investment advisor. Alpha Star and ILG Financial are independent entities.
Income, legacy, growth. It's all right here at ILG Financial. And it's about helping you plan for retirement your way so you can achieve your financial goals. Call ILG Financial at 540-720-5656 or go online to ilgfinancial.com to learn more. Now back to the Retire Your Way podcast with Dave Lopez.
Welcome back to Retire Your Way with Dave Lopez. My name's Jeff Shade. Thank you so much for joining us here on our inaugural podcast. In our last segment, we talked to Dave a little bit about his personal background, but in this one, we want to talk about ILG Financial. Dave, first off, what does ILG stand for?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It comes up a lot, and that's how I know if folks are listening to us, the ones that ask. We build out retirement plans, and let me start by saying that we are what's called a comprehensive retirement firm, which basically means when we build out your plan, we're not just trying to get one account and tell you how to invest it in stocks and bonds, which happens more often than we'd like to admit with firms, but we want to build out a comprehensive plan that is a fit for you, your family, and your retirement based on the amount of risk you want to take, based on the amount of money you have, and based on what you want to do in retirement. Our position is that every plan is going to be different, and we have found over 11 years that to be exactly true. Everyone has different risks, everyone has different goals, and everyone has a different amount of money that they can invest towards this. So we build out comprehensive plans for our clients. It's what we do, and we're very good at it. What ILG stands for is The systematic proprietary plan we've put together, and we've built it out over 11 years, is based on 3 main pillars that everybody needs to address when they're doing their retirement planning. And these should sound familiar to most folks, and if you haven't addressed them, it's a great wake-up call to give us a call. The first one is I is for income. We want to do income planning, and not just planning on how much income you're going to have in retirement, Jeff, but what about survivor income? If you're a married couple, if one of you dies, the spouse is left losing one Social Security check. You might lose all or part of a pension, and we may not have the money that we thought. So we want to build out a plan in advance that has survivor income for you. And then we also talk about things like income if one of you needs long-term care in a facility or in-home. That's an additional cost that you don't incur now. So there's a lot that goes into income planning. Add to it, we don't know when we're going to die, and it makes it a little bit complicated, doesn't it? But we've worked out how to do it in a systematic way to use as little of your money as possible to generate as much income and guarantee it'll last no matter how long you live. Now, the second pillar, Jeff, in ILG Financial is legacy. So, and this isn't everybody, but a lot of the folks, as we build out plans, my clients are excited to see that we can accomplish many times all of the goals they've listed, things they want to do in retirement, like travel and get a new place or downsize and cover all their bills and cover inflation and all those things. And then they still might have money left in their buckets that we haven't allocated to those goals. And many of them say, well, listen, the kids are going to get that, or my family, and I want them to have it. Well, if that's the case, we need to build out a plan that guarantees that your heirs get as much of that bucket as possible and the IRS gets as little as possible. Now, I haven't met anyone yet who wants to do it the other way. Even if you want to do charity, I would suggest let's set it up so that the government gets as little as possible, and that way you can direct the money to who you want to get it, not who the senators decide is going to get it. So that's legacy planning, and it needs to be a part, and I can't think of a better example of that than December of 2019, a new law passed, most retirees don't even know about it, called the Secure Act. And it dramatically changes how taxes are going to hit your heirs in retirement, specifically with your retirement accounts. And if your advisor hasn't already addressed that with you, that you have to make some major changes if you're concerned with legacy, then please give us a call, because it is a ticking time bomb now that a lot of folks aren't aware of. Now, the third one, Jeff, in ILG is growth. We want growth in our money if we can get it, right? We want to get as much growth as we can. But one of the things we stress that most clients tell us they've never heard before is, listen, we don't want just growth for growth's sake, because growth often entails taking some risk. We want to basically accomplish your goals using as little risk as possible, and then that might take a certain amount of growth. So usually I'll meet with someone and I'll say, hey, what's your goal in retirement? And it's not uncommon that someone will say, my goal in retirement is 6.5% growth. And I'll say, well, that's interesting. And of course, I know why they've said that. They've been conditioned by other advisors, right, that they should have a certain amount of rate of return that'll allow them to get what they want in retirement. But the reality is, once you enter retirement and start pulling money out to live off of, this idea of an average rate of return over your lifetime really doesn't mean much of anything anymore. And there's even a name for that. It's a risk. It's called the sequence of return risk. And we'll talk about that in another podcast. But basically what it means, and I tell folks this, I go, so if I could build a plan and we look back in 30 years, Jeff, and we've averaged 6.5%, but you've gone broke in the interim and run out of money, would you consider that the plan worked? And of course they say, no, it wouldn't have. So we kind of walk them gently through the plan to identify what their actual goals are. And usually it's not a specific rate of return, just like most people can't tell me the rate of return on their Social Security check. They just know they get a check every day for the rest of their life. So we want to build a plan out that addresses your income needs, your legacy needs, and your growth needs. There's no trick to that. It takes planning. That takes trust and cooperation between your advisor and yourself to work through and build this plan out in a systematic manner, and that's what we do.
And of course, Dave, I also think it takes someone like you there at ILG Financial who really does care about their clients and helping them get to where they want to be in retirement. Once again, ILG stands for Income, Legacy, and Growth. Well, Dave, we're out of time for our inaugural podcast. We hope everyone listening has learned something today, and we invite you to join us again next week for another Retire Your Way podcast. For Dave Lopez, I'm Jeff Shade. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.
The information provided is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for any individual or entity. All information contained herein is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. The views presented today are those of Dave Lopez and not necessarily represent the views of AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC. The opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Please consult your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Investment advisory services offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. AlphaStar and ILG Financial, LLC are independent entities.